Hi, this is going to be mostly a book haul, so to say, but I may just talk about other stuff in between because it was just recently my birthday a couple days ago, and I'm only 34 now. No, I'm 23. 23. 1 foot in the grave. And so I got some books because I got some money for my birthday, and also I just wanted to buy some. So yeah, I guess I went to the library today too, and I got a couple books. So it's not very interesting to look at, but this one here is Manuel Puig, The Kiss of the Spider Woman, and one of the main reasons I got it is because this guy, Evandara Affinity, he has a blog and Twitter and stuff. He really likes Evandara, and he mentioned, I can't remember how he mentioned it, but he mentioned that since Evandara didn't use J.R. by William Gaddis as like an inspiration, that he may have used Manuel Puig as an inspiration, because this book came out in 1991 and it's almost completely dialogue with the M dash like Evandara uses. So also it just seemed like a good book. At the bookstore near me they have his biography, his life and works, and I just flicked through it a little bit and it seemed very interesting. I didn't want to get the biography before I read a book of him though, so got this from the library, and yeah, I should be able to read it pretty soon. Another one I got here that I've been wanting for a while and just haven't gotten because one of my friends really likes it is The Death of Virgil by Herman Broch. There's a good cover there. I've been wanting it for a while because just the background of it is interesting. You know, this extremely skilled and talented writer writing a book about an extremely skilled and talented poet trying to burn his final work. Yeah, that background, and then knowing what I know about Herman Broch's life, that he wrote this in 1945. I think started in 1945 when he had his run-in with the Nazis. And also my friend has sent me excerpts from it, and it's a very good book. I'm looking forward to reading it. Another one I got recently that was fairly cheap is another one of these Austrian novels. I can't remember if I talked about it before. I don't think I did. Mr. Brecker's Fiasco. And I heard about this on the Complete Review website that Michael Orthofer, which is a very good blog, I suppose it's a blog, about books. This is one of the ones that he rated as an A, which he doesn't rate many as that. So I thought it would be neat, and also it was very cheap. So that'll be fun to get into. They compared it to Kafka with the bureaucratic satire, and also it was compared to Dublin as far as capturing the speech and the character of the time. So even if it's not like them, I'm sure it'll be interesting. Another one I just found when I was in the library, and this was completely random because I was looking for another book in the library, and I was looking for the Manuel Puig one, but I happened to see this one, Colonel Lagrimas by Carlos Fonseca, which I found on Wikipedia because I was looking up Alexander Grothendieck, who's a famous mathematician from the 20th century who lived a very interesting life, and this book was loosely based on his life. And I just noticed that this is the same publisher as that Riccardo Piglia, like fictional autobiography, fictional journal. And it does have a quote on the back here by Piglia that says, "An intriguing and unforgettable verbal kaleidoscope." So, yeah, this guy was born in not Puerto Rico. He was born in Costa Rica and grew up in Puerto Rico. So, I don't think I've read any books by people from either place, so that'll be good. Another one I got that I'm really excited about is Rousseau, his Confessions. My parents came down for my birthday, and we happened to be driving back, and I wanted to show them downtown Austin at night, because you can see some pretty interesting lights on skyscrapers and just in general the bridges and things. And when I was driving back, we happened to pass the bookstore here, so I convinced them to go inside, and this is what I ended up getting, the Confessions. And, yeah, I really like Rousseau. I've read some of his Reveries of a Solitary Walker, and he just has a nice style, nice way of thinking, so that'll be fun. Another one I got, and I'll explain how I got into this one first. I was looking up bookworm interviews, and somehow or another I got into Gilbert Sorrentino, and he has 5 interviews on YouTube with Michael Silverblatt for Bookworm, and I didn't really know much about him. I do remember vaguely watching them a couple of years ago, and I didn't get much from them, but I watch them now and I love them so much. Like he said so many good quotes. Like one of the ones he says is, he's talking about popular literature and more like, I guess, serious literature, or like basically art. And he says, with popular books, everyone has read them before no one has read them, and with literature, you read it for the first time every time. And I thought that was so interesting, because that's basically what I was getting at in my last video, where I was talking about books that you never really finish them, because every time you read them, you're basically reading it for the first time. You know, as in you've basically never read it before. And I'm not sure if Sorrentino would be willing to go that far, but you know, that's basically what I was getting at. It's you know, you're reading it for the first time every time you read it. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, another funny one is at the very end of the one in 2004, which I think is the best one. So if you watch it, probably check that one first. But yeah, I don't want to ruin it actually. So if you want to watch those, they're all very good. At the beginning, I don't think Michael Silverblatt and Gilbert Sorrentino had a very good relationship. Not that they had a bad relationship, but it was just somewhat cold, so that it's more like transactional. But you can tell by the end they were pretty good friends. They had talked quite a lot. And yeah, the one 2004 is excellent. 2005 is also excellent. So yeah, anyway, the book I got is Mulligan Stew, which I suppose is considered his best book. But the main reason I got it, it's kind of a, I don't know, weird reason, but I went to the bookstore just down the road from me, and it's all independent publishers, which is very nice. A lot of Dalkey Archive, a lot of New York Review of Books Classics, a lot of University of Chicago Press, New Directions, Restless Books, like I mentioned with the Ricardo Piglia, you know, everything, all the good ones. And I had remembered that they had this Mulligan Stew because it had been kind of on my mind. It's in like the tradition of like interesting American authors like Pynchon or Gaddis or Alexander Thoreau. It's in like that group, or that feeling of writers. So it's been like on my radar for a while, but it always kind of put me off, because I'm like, I always heard that it was like a book written in bad writing on purpose, and I was kind of skeptical, like, would that would that actually be something I'd want? And I always assumed no. But after listening to that guy's talks, the 5 of them, I was convinced to buy it. And I looked online and it was kind of expensive. It's not in print any longer. And I was just lucky enough that this bookstore somehow got a new edition. It was like literally in plastic. And so I was able to get a new one for a pretty good price, all things considered, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, so if you haven't heard of Gilbert Sorrentino, I'd check out those 5 bookworm talks with him, because they're very good. They're very good, especially if you like writing, like if you like actually writing yourself. It's very good. Another one I got, which I'll get to now. It's kind of like a throwaway thing. Not really, but don't take too much out of me getting it, because one of the reasons, well, anyway, I'll say it, Difference in Repetition by Gilles Deleuze. And one of the main reasons I got it is because someone mentioned, there was this guy named Jonathan on Goodreads. He mentioned in his review of The Lost Scrapbook that Dara had been reading his Deleuze, which I've never read any of those like French guys. And I've always been kind of put off by their, first of all, by their reputation, and then also by their style themselves when I tried to read them in the past. I do get the impression that they're needlessly obscure, and they're also the reputation by a lot of guys like Noam Chomsky. I was just listening a couple days ago, who's also a big component in the Lost Scrapbook, but he holds a very strong opinion that all the French postmodern, I think he basically thinks they're pseudo-intellectuals. You know, they don't actually know what they're talking about, but they make it sound like they do. I would assume Richard Feynman would agree, but I doubt he read them. I don't think he would even consider reading them. But I do think that they were very intelligent guys, speaking as a general group. So I would be very hesitant to completely write them off. I think it's probably mostly a misinterpretation of their intent, which I think happens a lot between like poets and philosophers or things. And I think it's always dangerous to write someone off in that way. But I think it's very hard to tell usually if you're doing that personally. I think it's much easier to see if someone else is doing it, but yeah, I would always be skeptical of myself if I write something off. And I know I have in the past of philosophy, because I don't think my general inclination of thinking is that more deductive style of reasoning. I think I tend to be more intuitive, or like make huge leaps. But yeah, so anyway, I decided to get this partially because it's funny. I did remember in the past running across it in a bookstore, and I'll just read you the part that I thought was funny. It's in the preface. Let's see here. It's in the original preface. The weaknesses of a book are often the counterparts of empty intentions that one did not know how to implement. In this sense, a declaration of intent is evidence of real modesty in relation to the ideal book. It is often said that prefaces should be read only at the end. Conversely, conclusions should be read at the outset. This is true of the present book, the conclusion of which could make reading the rest unnecessary. So, yeah, that's just kind of funny. And then also how it starts. It says, repetition is not generality. Repetition and generality must be distinguished in several ways. Every formula which implies their confusion is regrettable. For example, when we say that two things are alike as 2 drops of water, or when we identify there is only a science of the general with there is only a science of that which is repeated. Repetition and resemblance are different in kind, extremely so. And this style of, I guess you could say, philosophy completely reminded me of Kierkegaard, who I really enjoy. I really enjoy his way of thinking. And while he's not like purely rigorous in the way that maybe like an analytic philosopher would be, or maybe a hard scientist would be in his thinking, I think there's a lot that can be learned from it if you read it in the right way. So yeah, I just kind of took this as like a background project, so to say, because I don't really focus on philosophy. I was either going to get this book or I was going to get Kant's critiques, the critique of pure reason, critique of practical reason, the critique of judgment, which I may have made a poor judgment in getting this first, and I'm willing to take the consequences of that judgment. Another one I got from the library, which I got through Gilbert Sorrentino, because in the talks with Michael Silverblatt, Sorrentino brought up this guy, Jonathan Williams. This guy was a poet. He was in, I think he was born in 1927, something like that, 1920s anyway. Sorrentino was 1929. And I've just been gathering like a constellation of those guys, like in the 20s, because William Gaddis was 1922. Lenny Bruce was 1925. Sorrentino was 29. And that's another thing as a side comment that I really liked about Gilbert Sorrentino. He talks like Lenny Bruce, because I think they're both from New York. Sorrentino's from Brooklyn. I don't know if Lenny Bruce is from Brooklyn. Let's see if it says it here. No, it just says he's from the United States. But yeah, this is his How to Talk Dirty and Influence People that I have over here. But yeah, they talk the same way. They use the same like language in the same way. Like when they say crappy, like that's one thing that struck me as being the same way. Or yeah, you'll see it if you watch the interviews. But yeah, anyway, Jonathan Williams, I didn't remember him at all, like seeing him in the past. But in fact, I did actually know him. I wouldn't be able to find it now because they didn't list the titles of poems in here, but I wanted to read a couple of his poems because they're very funny, very, very funny. Let's see here. It reminds me a lot of E. Cummings. Let's see here. That's a good one. I'll just start from the beginning because that's how I did it. Seems like he just listened to people and just wrote down what they said. Let's see. Most people over 80 don't buy green bananas. And because of that, today I bought some yellow bananas, just in case. This is a funny one. Where will you be when your diarrhea comes back? Answer me that. I have no idea why he wrote that, but it's funny. Oh, here's a good one. Thomas Jekyll's Sunflower Fire Dogs. OJ in South Florida. I met this girl once and she tells me she only dates guys with 10 inches. I said, baby, I ain't cutting off 2 inches, not for nobody. Hegel once said the owl of Minerva flies at dusk. I think I can top that. The bowel of Minerva moves at dusk. What do you think? I have no idea why he wrote these. And that's part of, I think, what makes them funny. Buddy Hackett is this one's title. They told him to behave as though he were an egg. He lay down on the floor. They asked him what he was doing. I'm a fried egg. As the French say, may the flames of Islam consume your degenerate lifestyle, you depraved crab louse. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a good one. This is a good long one. The Irish working class is uniquely literate in the Western world. For example, two Englishmen on a London building site. One says to the other, "Fucking hell, Stuart. Why are you still hiring these fucking paddies after all the bombings?" And I'll tell you why, mate. They're very, very intelligent. He calls over Paddy. "Paddy, tell my friend the difference between a joist and a girder." "Sure. And begorra dead easy, boss. Joist wrote Ulysses and girder wrote Faust." My daughter can spot a cute boy 150 yards. What she can't find is a tomato in the refrigerator. I just had sex on the Coney Island Ferris wheel. It was not a dream, and boy am I glad. Stan Getz, 1927 to 1991. I've never played a note I didn't mean, and I'd like that written on my tombstone. Oh, these are two really good ones here. I can't say one of them though, I'll just show it to you. It was in a dance hall in Leadville, Colorado in 1883 that Oscar Wilde saw a sign that seemed to him the only rational instance of art criticism he'd ever beheld. It said, "Please do not shoot the piano player, he's doing his best." And then the other one I wanted to show you is this one here. Hopefully you can read it. Hopefully it focuses. It's the one in the middle. Well, anyway, yeah, these are just ridiculous. But, yeah. Oh, here's another one. Here's a good one. It's called Big Irma. I might be too old to cut the mustard, but I can still lick the jar. I'm sure he's heard these from people, but they're so funny. They're so funny. Oh yeah, and here I'll get to the grand finale, and then I'll have an encore afterwards. So, what I really went out of my way to buy for my birthday is this box set Musel. This is the whole Man Without Qualities with some extra stuff in the second volume. Isn't that just beautiful? Look at that. And then like the whole box set itself is just really nice on the top here. Yeah, so, and I'll also show you them. So this one here is the volume 1. And these are just gorgeous. This is the title page. And then this is the second volume, the one with the extra stuff in it. So that was my really extravagant thing I got myself. And then for the minor finale, I got this here because I was looking at like threads with guys with prose style, like people with good prose styles, and I kept coming across this guy here, William H. Prescott. He's an American historian. In this book here, The History of the Conquest of Mexico and the History of the Conquest of Peru. The main one I got it for is The History of the Conquest of Mexico. It was written in 1843, published then, I suppose. This is it, the Modern Library Edition, which is a very thick book, as you can see, like 1,400 pages. And there's something just very comforting about the older, like 19th century historians, maybe even older historians. That's probably why Edward Gibbon is so so many people like him. I haven't read him yet, but yeah, I don't really read, like speaking specifically about this book, I don't really read it as like an information gathering practice, if you want to like put it in a highfalutin way. I more read it just as an enjoyment. Maybe like how you'd watch a sports game or something. That's really how I enjoy a lot of this stuff. Like, I was speaking to my Shakespeare teacher, and I told him that I liked Thomas Browne for his style mostly, and he seemed surprised at that. And I can imagine why you'd be surprised, because he also has very many good ideas, and he's a very intelligent guy, and you can analyze him for his ideas, which I do, but the most of my enjoyment comes from the style, just the completely unique and unbelievable style that he has. And Prescott is less so unique, but it's just so pristine. It's kind of like Schopenhauer. I just got the second volume of The World as Will and Representation from the library because I wanted to read his sections on poetry, genius, madness, music. I was reading a couple of those tonight. They're kind of interesting, but they're disappointing because his one on genius, he thought that you could see an intelligent person by how their face looked. Like, he was saying you could tell a genius by what their face looked like. Like they had a particular, like he mentioned their brow. Like the look of their brow. It's like, dude, do you really think you could tell? Maybe I'm just wrong, you know. He was a smart guy, so maybe I'm wrong, but I find it highly unlikely, intuitively and also deductively. But yeah, just William H. Prescott. I would recommend, if you just like reading, if you like reading, you should check out William H. Prescott. You can find it free online on the Project Gutenberg, but I just wanted a copy because it's so cheap. You know, it's so widely known. You can get a really cheap copy. Like this cost me $8. $8 for 1,400 pages of extremely good writing that I can pick up whenever I want. And that's another thing with buying books. I can see like a cynical person would say, oh, you buy all these books and you don't read them. That's correct. If you put a clause in there, you don't read them immediately, then it's correct. But I can't tell you how many times I've bought a book and then I've picked it up on a whim and just read it in a day or two. That's mostly the way I read my books. So, you know, in that context, if I buy my books and then I choose from them, let's say for like in a month or two, you know, then it's completely ignorant to say, oh, you buy all these books and don't read them. Yeah, I may not buy them the instant they arrive at my doorstep, but I do read them. And, you know, I'm only 23. The average lifespan of a human in America is 79, I think, for a guy, and like 83 for a woman. So, you know, I'll be easy on myself if I buy like 100 extra books that I haven't read, because last year I read 43 books, and that's only books I put in Goodreads. I don't include poetry. I don't include books I read for school. So it's probably closer to 50, 55 if I'm being specific about like physical books that I read. And so at that rate, let's say for example I buy 5 books and I read 2 of them immediately and save 3 for later. At that rate, I can catch up basically whenever I want. And so I don't worry about that, like some people do. I know some people get on like book buying, what is it? I'm trying to think of a specific word. Moratoriums or something like that. But, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I'm really good with my money, like I save it, and so I have one vice. Well, no, I have two vices. Books is one of them, and food is the other. Like, screw it, I'll show you. If you made it this far, you're willing to waste some time. I got some Nutella Oreos. Can you believe that? I already ate half a pack of another one. I got 2 packs because I knew I would like them. But, yeah, and then I'm about to, after this, I'm going to eat 2 chicken sandwiches with honey mustard, dipping sauce, and then I'm going to have, my parents got me a birthday cake that is white chocolate and raspberry. So, I'm living the life. Can't complain about anything. I do have to do a shitload of homework after this too, but yep, can't complain about anything. Got my box set Musel, and either tomorrow or the next day I should be getting a collection of George Chapman's works. I got his poems and minor translations and his plays. That was only $25. It was the Shadow and Windus ones published in 1889 and 1895. So I'm completely lucky. I'm blessed, as they say. So yeah, if you guys have read any of these books, if you think any of them are interesting, just leave me a comment. Sorry that this video was so long. I meant to make it shorter, but yeah, I've been a little loose today, you could say. So, well, anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Death is a gang boss. Feel free to leave any comments.